Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
It's the power of the game.
It's the power of the game.
It's the Power of the Game podcast by Golf Saudi.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Power of the Game podcast with Golf Saudi. This episode's special guest is a pioneer when it comes to golf in the kingdom. His name is Saud Al Sharif. He's one of the top 2 amateur players in Saudi Arabia, and he's got a very, very bright future in the game. What has it been like to be a trailblazer, to take up the game when there's no history of the sport in the kingdom and actually advance his level to professional aspirations? He's had some fantastic results and he's got a wonderful story to tell. This episode's special guest then, Saud Al Sharif. Let's get into it.
Well, it's great to be joined by a familiar face, definitely a familiar face to anyone who follows golf in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and a man who is carving out a very exciting career at the age of, I believe you are 21. Am I correct in saying that, Saud?
Yes, I am.
21 years of age. I first met you when you were probably 17 or 18 at the opening of the Royal Greens Golf and Country Club. You were a budding amateur then. You are an amateur with a pretty good resume now, it's fair to say, Saud. Give us a kind of snapshot as to where you are right now with your golfing career.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me in this podcast. It's amazing the stuff you guys are doing with it. It's really special. And really, it was it's an exciting journey. I want to say it's where I am right now, and thinking back of where I was in the beginning and how I got to golf. It's pretty interesting, I want to say.
Let's go before. In fact, you know what? Before we touch on where you are right now, because I know you've got some incredible progress that you've made in the last 18 months, Saud. When did you first pick up a golf club? How old were you, and can you remember who or what introduced you to the game?
I can remember. Yes, it was actually in Scotland. I was about, I want to say, 10 years old. It was a family vacation trip we took up there, and I just decided to pick up a putter and hit a few putts just outside the hotel. At that time, obviously, I wasn't living in Bahrain. I was in the Eastern Province. I grew up there. I was born there, and then moved to Bahrain. Funny enough, a year after I came back from Scotland, and my house was literally right behind the 16th green. And I was like, okay, I remember this sport now. So right away I was like, okay, the feeling I got from playing the game in Scotland was very, very, very special. And I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. And then pretty much started playing it, and took a few lessons at the club, and I guess the love of the sport just went crazy from there.
You know, it's funny because most of the guests we've spoken to on the podcast, and they range from anyone who's working in the industry to some of the pros on the Ladies European Tour. Most of them were introduced to the game by a parent or both their parents. You discovered the game off your own bat, Saud. You just went out and just discovered it at the home of golf of all places.
Yes, it was funny enough. It was in Pitlochry, so not very well-known town, I want to say, but probably well-known in the Scottish region. But yeah, correct. Most of the people who start or pick up this game is literally just because their parents play or their friends or whatever. But me, I mean, literally, there's not a single family member or a cousin that I know from my family that plays golf. I'm the only one.
And what has
And I
been the
always
reaction?
get the question from my parents. And I always get the question from my parents. They're like, "Why did you pick this game? out of every sport in the kingdom, why golf?" I'm trying to figure out the answer till today, to be honest with you. But it's just
for you, you're a trailblazer. I mean, yourself, Othman, of course, as well, who's kind of carved his own pathway. You know, you guys are the first of a wave of what I'm sure will be many, many more to follow of young players, young guys in the kingdom who are trying to make their way in the game of golf. And like for that, I'm sure your parents are very proud of you for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. I think Othman also started on his own. I don't think probably just his friends that they introduced him to the game, but like we have a very mutual kind of way of how we picked up the game. But it's very exciting to see how golf is right now in the kingdom. The stuff that that's been going on with the Gulf Saudi and the superb work they're putting in with everything. It's a pleasure to be a part of the journey they're in as well.
Okay, so for you, Saud, taking up golf, playing in Bahrain, of course, where you lived for some time, I know that there is a golf course out there, and I know that there is a tradition. They've had a lot of good golfers who grew up playing the sand courses out there, and Bahrain actually probably has the history of probably producing the most local players of any of the GCC countries. So from that point of view, there was a background, but at the same time, it's not like you grew up in the UK or the US where there's an infrastructure to help you, develop your skills and become a competent player and become an elite player. So how did you become an elite player growing up in this part of the world where there isn't that infrastructure?
Exactly. Very interesting point. I've always felt that Bahrain have always had the probably the strongest set of players in the region, just because golf was always a thing. Looking back all the way back until probably in the 40s when that's when they established the sand courses in Bahrain. So they've got really a very old background into the game. I want to say there was a big help from the Bahrainis introducing me to the game and being exposed to some of the stuff I needed to be, familiar with, such as competition, such as getting used to the feeling of tournaments, just being around better players from such a young age. And I to be honest with you, what made me, I think, like get to that level very fast is just the determination I had ever since I was a kid. Ever since I picked up the first club, I knew like right away this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I had a vision. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I always had this this vision ever since I was a kid, and even told my parents that I want to get serious about the game, and they've supported me all the way. And also, I want to thank, to be honest with you, all the Bahrainis growing up. How they've taught me some of the stuff. How they've just been very very good friends around me, and people who I also looked up to as a youngster.
So how old were you when you moved back to Saudi, Saud?
You mean when I moved back to Bahrain?
When you moved, you currently live in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah, just of this year actually.
Oh, so you only moved back this year?
Yeah, so I was in Bahrain for the last 10 years of my life.
Wow. Okay. So, all right, explain to me what kind of motivated that. Had the development of golf here got a lot to do with that?
For the reason why I came back here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there's with all the plans that the Gulf Saudi is having and all the events we're having and all the training camps and stuff that's been going on, I prefer to be closer to home and actually playing in the kingdom. I just felt that I was away from the kingdom for such a long time, and I just needed to go back and mix in a bit with all the players and just be around the team, and also start making newer friends here, just to be more comfortable in the place where I'm from.
Right. Okay. So give me your kind of competitive background, if you can, Saud. You obviously played Arab golf to a high level. You became one of the top players in this region. But then, if you look beyond that, you've got obviously the MENA Tour, which I know you've been exposed to as well, and you've played on events there, and you've done very well on that tour as well. It's unfortunate that the MENA Tour has had to take this hiatus, and I know they're trying to organise a schedule for 2022, and I know that that's obviously probably something on your radar as well. But how do you graduate from being a good player in this region to being, a player who's competing against other nationalities on a higher level?
Maybe just I want to say opportunities when you're young, like when I was 15 or 16, I was lucky to get an invite to play some of the MENA stuff, which really helped my game and helped some of the junior events I played in the region as well. MENA was a big help for me in terms of, just sharpening up my game, knowing where I stand as a youngster among all pros I've played with in MENA. So I feel like MENA in that part was very crucial. I mean, if anyone wants to take their game to the next level, and anyone particularly from this region, I would recommend to them to play MENA Tour as much as they can. I mean, the quality of players really you get in MENA is great as well, and the sort of competition you feel is very close to, I want to say, mini tours out in the UK, such as Europro and these kind of tours.
You, I believe, shot 65 in the Bahrain Open in the second round, I think it was. I mean, you got right up close to the top of the leaderboard, obviously finishing high amateur in that tournament. What did that kind of teach you about where you were at? Can you describe that experience?
It's by far my favorite experience so far in my career. Just to see my name up there, and the way I played and the way I handled and carried myself on the course that week was, I was very proud of that. Leading up to MENA, I felt that my game was trending. I was doing solid work with my coach Jamie McConnell in Dubai the week before. I was in Oman playing the MENA event right before Bahrain. Made the cut there and just felt very comfortable with my game. And even Jamie, my coach, was there for the Bahrain week. We did some solid prep right before the event, and I felt very comfortable. I even told him right before I teed off in the first round that I feel good about this event. Maybe just being at the home soil and my home course for the last couple or several years, that really helped. How I played the golf course maybe a bit differently than other pros, just because I had the home course advantage on everybody. But still, nonetheless, the way I performed there was very special to me, and by far the proudest moment of my career so far.
And did your position on the leaderboards affect how you were feeling and therefore how you played, Saud? Like, did you focus on where you were at? Was there any inexperience maybe that you maybe got ahead of yourself maybe a little bit?
I want to say there was a bit like you gotta admit there was pressure there. Obviously it was a very new thing to me, leading being second place in a big event like that. But also on the side, the conditions on the last round was by far the main issue, I would say. It's on everybody, and I understand it's the conditions are always on every player out there on the course, and you still gotta go out there and perform. But I just felt like that week, maybe I just expected a lot out of myself, especially after seeing myself up there on the final round. A bit of management play, I want to say, as well in that round. Maybe a bit too aggressive on some of the shots I was hitting, or the lines and stuff. But that's the only way you grow and you learn, and you gotta be in those positions a lot of times, and that's how you kind of find out how to play those conditions on the next tournament.
Sure. When you've kind of played in tournaments, overseas, and you've traveled and you've kind of had a glimpse into what it would be like to be on the tour and sort of live that life of a tour pro, because the one thing I always, and I'll never understand, but a lot of the tour pros that I've interviewed have kind of spoken about the solitude really of the life. It's quite a sort of it can be quite a nomadic life, quite a sort of lonely existence in a way. You've got to have a good team around you, and you've got to be very sort of single-minded. And give us an insight into how that has been for you, just sort of obviously leaving the comfort zone of the Middle East and traveling and experiencing different competitions, different golf courses, living out of a suitcase. How's that been for you?
Well, it's funny because this summer I was actually in the UK for the whole 4 months, and I was on my own. I was getting place to place, living the hustle life, as they say, or the tour life. And it was tough, man. it taught me a lot about myself, and it taught me a lot about life as well. Just being out there for 4 months, it's a grind. Everything is on your own, and it just kind of gave me a taste of how it would be when maybe turning pro and playing as a professional in the future. But I've always enjoyed being on my own out there on the course, doing my thing, obviously working on my game. So that part of the game doesn't really kind of affect the way I approach the game as well.
Yeah, because a lot of the players that I speak to, they talk about it's very important not to let like performance affect state of mind. If you have a bad round, it's obviously important to be able to put that to one side and not let that kind of get you down mentally. And if you have a good round as well, it's important to obviously keep a level keel, like an even balance to your mental state. Have you kind of thought much about that and how you would go about doing that to ensure that you're not negatively impacted by if you're not happy with how you're playing, and you manage to keep that equilibrium?
Yes, that's very important. That's one of the things I started to learn slowly throughout the years. Obviously, as a youngster, I was very emotional, very kind of, I want to say fiery. But a part of growing up, I want to say also is, having that sense of maybe a bit of calmness, maybe a bit of you're going out there not expecting to do anything. You're just going out there playing your game. And if you're gonna have bad rounds out there, that's normal. This is golf, and just the level of acceptance that you should have out of a bad round is probably what makes a difference in the end, because everyone's gonna have a bad round, and this is the nature of the game. It's just how you react and how you approach your second round or your third round or whatever that is. You always gotta have a positive attitude. You always gotta put in the work, and the big thing I learned maybe this summer is there's no expectations. Just go out there and play your game. Set up obviously a good game plan in the practice rounds. Stick to those game plans no matter what, and just learn how to play the golf course and then enjoy yourself.
Yeah. We as media, fascinated in outcomes, and you guys as players, fascinated in process. That's what I've learned, Saud. It's all about, the building blocks to what then lead to the results, and that's what, ultimately leads to the achievement. But would you say that being Saudi adds pressure to you? Or do you put more pressure on yourself maybe? Because not only are you doing it for yourself, but there is a bigger, wider cause here. Like, you are also flying the flag for a very emerging new nation where there's probably some degree of like expectation that you maybe place on yourself, that your part of your job is also to grow the sport in Saudi.
Of course, it's a big responsibility, I want to say, but the important thing for me is yes, I wanna be a good role model for everyone in Saudi, and I wanna be a good pioneer for the game in the kingdom. But at the same time, I can't have that be on the way for me to perform, even on a golf course. I've got to take that on a positive way, and maybe doing it for the right reasons. Know why you're out there, trust your game, and just stay positive. And I don't want to lie and say I don't think about it on the golf course. I do, but as much as I can, I try to just stay positive and just take all that aside and just focus on the game more.
I know you've lived abroad for a long time, Saud, but like give us a Saudi Arabian perspective on what's going on. I mean, I can look at it from the outside, as a UK citizen living in Dubai. I look at what's going on. And obviously, there's so much change. There's so much emergence. There's so much growth in not just golf, but like so many sports. I know football's always been a religion in Saudi Arabia of some sort. It's always been massive. But there's now F1. You're having boxing. You're having tennis events go to the kingdom. Like there seems to be this whole impetus now to really get Saudi Arabia to kind of embrace new sports, and obviously golf's a big part of that. As an athlete coming out of Saudi Arabia, what's your perspective on that?
Very proud and very excited to see all that stuff happening in the kingdom. We would have never thought it would be to this extent, even 3 years ago. But the way it's evolved, and the way the people take it, and the way our government is running it as well, it's just fantastic. And it's being a part of that as well as a golfer, growing the game in the kingdom, and just sitting back and watching all other stuff happening in Saudi is just very exciting. I mean, I've never thought F1 would be in the kingdom, just because I've lived in Bahrain for the last 10 years, and it was always the Bahrain Grand Prix was always there. And I've always questioned myself. I was like, if the F1 is gonna have a race in Bahrain, like Saudi is not far away, and the capabilities we have, it's not gonna be a difficult thing. And here you go, 7 years later or 8 years later, and we have a race going on now. And it's just time will tell what happens next, but it's just for now, just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see the first ever race right here in Jeddah, in fact. And I know that down the line, maybe it will move to the new Giga project down in Qadiyah, which looks incredible. Yeah. There's a Jack Nicklaus golf course being designed there. There's a Greg Norman golf course being designed at Diriyah Gate. I mean, from your perspective, what do you make of all this development, this Vision 2030, all the billions of dollars that are spent on not just development, but it would seem that golf is a fundamental part of all these projects?
Yes, it is, because as you know, golf attracts tourism more than anything, I would say. Everyone enjoys playing this game, and having the idea of starting up all those new projects in the kingdom was actually the perfect idea, because people want to have world class facilities, world class golf courses when they come over here, obviously for tourism. Not just that, also the players in that will play a big role for people who are considering picking up the game in the kingdom, just to be able to see the level of the golf course, and the the amount of courses that are in Saudi. And because we used to have just a handful of them back in the day. And now they're, as you know, Saudi is a very big country, and obviously with the people here, they want to have access in each part of the country, and it's slowly going that way right now. We're gonna have a couple here, and then there's a place in Jeddah at the Red Sea program. Hopefully, we're gonna have a couple in the south and north, also in Neom, which is a very exciting project.
Yeah.
That it plays a very big role.
Yeah. What's it going to take, Saud, do you think? I know that they've got loads of plans at the grassroots level to grow the game. I know that the guys, in fact, Jamie, I believe, is involved, and Stephen Troop here as the Director of Instruction and Education at Golf Saudi. He's actually been on the podcast as well, talking about how they're going to roll out and implement like the growth of golf at a grassroots level. I think something like 135,000 kids will be introduced to golf in the schools over the course of the next couple of years. So that's exciting. But what's it going to take for this nation to embrace golf, do you think? Is it going to take someone like yourself to break through and be a professional on a European or PGA tour? Or is it going to take just introducing kids to the game, just making sure it's part of the culture? Yeah.
I think both, really, if you ask me. But for them to be able to see a Saudi player making it up there, I think that's going to push the whole kingdom to be able to be like, oh, if he can make it, I can make it. I'm going to work hard enough to be up there one day. I don't see why not. I mean, he's a Saudi, I'm a Saudi. I have the facility. I have people with like the kids would have better facilities than we had back in the day. So I see no reason why it's impossible for us with all the things that are happening now and all the facilities and the access we're gonna get. It's just gonna take one of us. It's either someone makes it as a Saudi, and the whole sport is just gonna go crazy from there, or introducing the kids to the game. It might take a bit longer time. Obviously, they're gonna grow up. You're gonna have to wait. It's a long journey plan. But
Sure.
obviously, in my opinion, if a Saudi player makes it up there, it's gonna be it's gonna be a catalyst to of the growth of the game in Saudi.
And then the media plays a big role as well in obviously creating interest. Has the media interest in yourself? Have you noticed that change in the last couple of years?
Yes, especially playing in the event, playing all three editions of the Saudi International. I was, I was exposed to a lot of media stuff that I want to say I wasn't very familiar with back in the day, but it's good. It's good PR. It's good, just to put out your name up there. People will know you, and that's sort of stuff I need to get used to. Obviously, growing up.
Just playing in that event, Saud, obviously the world number one at the time, Dustin Johnson, has won it twice. It's an incredible field. It's your home tournament in that sense. But then again, you're an amateur and you probably wouldn't have any expectations. So was it a pressure-free event, or did you feel a sense of pressure?
No, I felt pressure all three events I played. Even as an amateur, I'm not expecting a lot out of myself, but the weight of the event and the class players you're playing against, I mean that gives a lot of level of or feeling of I want to perform, I want to see my name up there with them, I want to do this and that. But I want to say I got better at that after the first 2 years. I didn't play very well last year, but I felt like my management play was progressing and improving from the previous 2 years, and I think it just needs a bit of experience. Obviously, playing in those events are not easy, and just I wanna take it slow. I wanna just focus on my game more than anything.
Give me an idea of where you want to go next. You've won the Jordan Open. First of all, in fact, tell me about that. That was an incredible achievement. I know you mentioned the Bahrain Open being the highlight of your career so far, but surely the Jordan Open is going to be a close second.
Yeah, it was funny because I really I have something with that course that I don't feel comfortable with. Maybe it doesn't suit my eye as much. I was actually intending to stay over in Dubai and train more with my coach, but Prince Khalid was like, he pushed me to play the event. He was like, even though you don't like the golf course, you gotta get used to playing courses that you don't like. And I mean, thanks to him that I went. But yeah, the week before we were with Jamie. We had 4 days training at the Als Club, and we found out. We discussed this game called Moneyball. So what Moneyball is basically knowing your tendencies and having an understanding of where you can miss the ball and where you should hit the ball. It's not always at the flag, and obviously with dialing down your yardages, you're gonna have your yardages down. So the only thing you should be doing is just managing yourself through the course, and really sticking to that process, because it's when down the stretch with the event, it could change. Like you could have a bad decision and it could lead up to you not scoring very well.
Sure.
And then you question yourself where everything went wrong. And it's all just process oriented. It's all management play. And I want to say I nailed every single shot of that week in terms of process and management. And if anything, the first round was a bit of sloppy mistakes around the greens, but it's all work in progress in the short game area. But from tee to green, I was very happy with how I played.
Okay, and what about the future? 2022. I mean, Mina Tour is returning. Fingers crossed. They managed to obviously hold those events. I'm sure they will. It's not been ideal with COVID and all that kind of thing, Saud, for you at 21. You want to be playing in as many tournaments as possible. But what are your plans for the future, and kind of where do you feel like you need to develop? What's the next sort of step forward for you, do you think?
I want to say just, having a bit more, events down the line will help, bigger ones as well. We've got the Asian Tour in 2 weeks in Thailand, which will help. We've got 2 events, and obviously we'll wrap up the season with the Arab Champs and the Abu Dhabi event in Saadiyat. The goal for this year was to just test myself around the greens, because that's where I suffered in the summer. It was the main reason why I wasn't scoring, and the visit to Jamie really helped. I felt that there was a bit of progress there in Jordan with the short game. So I just want to continue doing that. And the 2022 season, hopefully with the Mina returning, it's going to be, I don't know I wouldn't say a full packed season, but it will be a good way to start the year. And obviously I'm looking forward to maybe returning back to the UK the next summer to play a bit more amateur events and stuff. And yeah, I mean, looking forward to all that.
You've got no plans to turn professional next year, Saud?
I had the plans initially, but I discussed it obviously with my coach, and I wanted to be able to give it a bit one more shot at the amateur career, just because and until I feel internally ready to be able to turn professional, not just doing it to for the name. I want to say. Yeah. I want to feel ready. I want to perform until I from now until I start performing like a professional. Maybe I'll make that decision, but for now I'm sticking to just being an amateur for next season.
Okay, well, I think that's very wise, by the way, because I think that the worst thing you can do is rush into a decision like that. It's a massive decision. Exactly. And once you bring that decision on, it will come with a lot of different responsibilities, which obviously you just need to feel like you're ready to take on. So exactly. I applaud that decision, Saud. You've got my vote of approval for that.
Thank you so much.
Listen, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We've obviously loved having you on. It's an honor to have you on as the top Saudi amateur. It's great to have your name on that podcast. So thank you so much, Saud.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Okay. When can I watch out for you next? When's your next tournament? In Thailand?
Yeah, there'll be a week and a half from now.
A week and a half from now. Okay. Yeah. For people listening into this, what's the best way to follow your progress? Is it on social media?
Yeah, I'm active on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. Just those 2.
Okay, good stuff. Well, Saud Al Sharif, absolute pleasure. Best of luck in the next tournament, and look forward to catching up with you in person soon, okay?
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Good man.